First thing I'd like to do is thank the Rural Communities Foundation of Nova Scotia for their support during the past year. It's been greatly appreciated and it's been valued by the community. So in terms of what we've been trying to do, the greatest impact of the project, I think in a way it's been to show the community that there's a lot of great volunteer support out there. We have over 200 community nonprofit groups represented on the Wiki, and it just gives them a lot of pride knowing that in a community of about 10,000, we've got 200 organizations. That means there's one organization for every 50 people. There's tens of thousands of volunteer hours, and they contribute greatly to the community. I thought we'd just show you a little bit about the Wiki. Jane, could you click on community service, please? So those are the categories that we've broken it down into. And right up there on the left-hand side, sorry, community and service, under organizations, sorry. Yes, great. And this just gives you a little bit of an idea. We tried to make this fairly simple so that people could just go through, find the organization, the contact person, and a little bit of a snapshot of what, so if you're interested in volunteering, for example, this is a good place to go. Could you just scroll down a little bit, Jane? Sure. It gives you a little bit of an idea of the different organizations. We also have the opportunity to, on the North Shore Community, Jane, right? You see the North Shore Community Development Association? You could just click on our Wiki page there too. So the organizations also have an opportunity to have their own page, which is sort of neat. And it gives them, and that's the group that looks after our project. And volunteer group, Paul Brinkhurst there, the gentleman on the left, he's our chair. Bard March is back there, and this is the group that oversees things. And our project wouldn't happen if it wasn't for these group of volunteers. So it's great to have them on board. And again, so what we've tried to do is give a little bit of a record to the community of the different events that we've held. So if we click on community hall sessions, we had a really good session out in Tony River. Small group work, people working together for the communities, talked about the need for, a lot of small community halls are really having difficulty. Small rural fire departments having difficulty. We talked about that. You get people together, they're exchanging information. We had the warden at this meeting, had a couple of counselors, so they're meeting with the people who can actually influence what they're trying to do. So this is, we felt this was useful. And I'll get you to okay. Can you just scroll back in there, Jim? Thank you. So in terms of different projects and things, we ended up holding a dozen forums and quite a number of issues. One of the things we co-sponsored was they had a session on a food bank. And that's probably one of the most gratifying. We didn't do a whole lot with that. I mean, I wish we could say, but we did help them move the process along. And that food bank in Tadmagush is actually starting up this Tuesday. And so that's going to provide a wonderful service for the community, which will do a lot. One of the impacts of the project as well, this is a regional project, and it stretches from Pugwash, includes Tadmagush, Wentworth, and all the way to River John and Caribou River. And it's been a bit of a challenge to get folks who are used to their own communities thinking regionally, but I think we're making a little bit of progress. And when you get people talking about the whole region, you find there's a tremendous resource there, because it isn't just your little community of a couple hundred people, but you're tied into this larger community, and that makes it exciting. And in terms of, we were talking a little bit about school closures. We have 2 schools within our area that are facing school closure. River John Consolidated School, where our granddaughter goes, and Wentworth Elementary School. And again, these schools are just incredibly vital to small rural communities. And you take them out, and it's an irreplaceable loss. And so we've been trying to work with them, and one of the things we did do is we did some research, and it wasn't strictly part of our project, but we did some research on the idea of how do we make it easier for these schools to remain open? How do we help, I guess? And we came up with the idea of rural learning centers, the notion that if you can, and I think Elspeth spoke about it before as well, the idea of getting the community more involved. And so perhaps evening sessions where we can have more people in the community. We did a fair bit of work with the Nova Scotia Community College in Stellarton and the principal out, some senior people, and they're interested in the idea of perhaps having evening sessions where they could, talk about their school, their projects, the courses that they offer, and it might be a good way for other communities to work as well, because I found the community college folks very responsive. They've been excellent to deal with, And it might be a way if we can draw them in and draw people into the community in the evenings. And the idea of learning as a group, learning together, there's all kinds of online resources, we can pull that in, but have people learn from each other. We learn from experiences, we learn in so many different ways. And that notion that there are many ways to learn is important, particularly for rural communities. In terms of, I'll skip a little bit ahead to surprises, I guess. In terms of surprises, our biggest surprise was that we did an informal survey of students, and we found that of 37 high school students, only one planned to remain in the area after graduation. And it's fine if people want to leave for education and eventually try to come back, but if they're just leaving it, it's devastating for communities. So that was one of the main surprises, one of the main things we learned as well. And the forum that we'll be having next week will be, oh yeah, great. That was the one we had in, that's the one we had in March. It was really good fun. It was a great group of kids. We had young people from Pugwash, from Tatamagouche, from River John, and they got together and they had a lot of fun and they learned from each other, and it was really quite a wonderful experience. And the Tatamagouche Center is a great place to learn. So that was great. Another thing, one of the things that we did as well over the summer, we've talked about ways of getting young people back to the community. We felt it was important to tell some stories of people who had actually left and then returned. And I'll get you just to scroll down. So in the first case, we've got this is a couple, and she's from Melbourne originally, and so they went back there to live in Melbourne. 4 million people, 2 million people, I guess. A lot of people. They ended up settling, they came back, they settled in this little area, Port Howe, just outside of Pugwash. And so there they go. And you'd think that all the opportunity would be in Melbourne, right? Well, they say not so. They say there's all kinds of opportunity. So they set up this little fish and chip place, awesome fish and chips, and they're making this little business. They've got 3 kids. Part of the reason for having the business is so they'll have some employment later on. So they're thinking ahead. They've got a fabulous spot overlooking the River Phillip. And they can take that and maybe use that. I mean, in Melbourne, they couldn't have bought probably couldn't have rented an apartment. But here, they've got this great property. So it's the opportunity of rural communities that's really exciting. I'll get you there's 2 or 3 more. I'll just get you to scroll down quickly. Again, classic case here. Mallory couldn't wait to get out of Pugwash. It was what she just, grade 12 came and she was just gone. So she goes, and she traveled quite a bit. It was great. She went to England, she went to Calgary, she studied, and then she came back and she realized after a few years, well, maybe Pugwash wasn't quite so bad. So she came back. There was an opportunity to open up a beauty salon. She did that. She's got a good business going, and she's back. But her story is that it wasn't wrong for her to go out. She enjoyed that. She learned so much, and but we need to provide a return route for people so that they go back, that they say, oh, okay, there are paths back to our communities. We can raise our kids here. We can come back. This is a young fellow, again, he's not quite so young now, Keith, and he's a stone worker. And again, he traveled a lot. He went all over the place. He came back. He's working at the Wallace Quarry, but he's also doing this as a business. He's got a little stone place, and he does some fabulous work. You look at that, that's just an amazing creation there. And so again, we tell that story a little bit, and if you can go down one more, please. And the last one we had was, again, another young fellow went out to Fort Mac, working all the time, and he recalls, actually, it's sort of neat, he recalls seeing the show, and then he talks about the people. He said they were a pastorally based people, he recalls. They had a mixture of fishing and farming, very closely linked to the land and the communities. And he realized that there are still places like that. And one of the places happened to be Wallace. In terms of rural development, I mean, what will keep people in or help them to return at least to small rural communities? I think it really is a combination of 2 things. I think having learning communities where people can learn from each other, that type of thing. And I do greatly believe in entrepreneurship. I think that's really for a lot of people. There can be social entrepreneurship, but it allows people to create their own work in their own communities. And it gives them, I mean, if you go to rural communities, there's often virtually nothing on their job bank. But if you can think about the resources, the things that your community has to offer, and you can create your own work, it's exciting stuff, and then you have work for your family. And I think that may be a path ahead. Thank you very much.